Call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order at 9:01 a.m. We'll begin with an attendance roll call.
Commissioner Nolden?
Present.
Commissioner Winfrey?
Here.
Commissioner Ellenberg? Here. Commissioner Clemens?
Present.
Commissioner Avery?
Present.
Commissioner Ewing?
Present.
Commissioner Davis?
Present.
Commissioner Newman? Commissioner Peppin?
Here.
With 8 members present, we do have a quorum. Next will be our invocation led by Commissioner Ellenberg.
At this time, I'd like everybody to bow their head and do a moment of silence. Thank you.
Next is the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, so our minutes from the last meeting are not available, so we'll approve those at the next board meeting. That'll take us to public address to the board. If there's any member of the public wishing to address the board, now is the time to do so. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. We ask those interested to speak to please line up to my right, your left. We ask when you come up, you state your name and your city of residence. And again, as always, we ask that you keep your remarks professional and courteous. Is there any member of the public wishing to address the board?
Good morning. My name is John L. Allen, and
Percy Glover, good morning.
first of all, we'll keep it very brief. The last 30 days has been an honor to be able to serve in our community in the role that you have allowed us to be able to have with the community engagement, and we're very honored to be able to cover the 4 corners of our county. It's been a very rewarding opportunity to be engaged where people get a chance to understand exactly what true race relations look like, what education looks like, education to the public to let them have an understanding about what happens here, what's going on, and it's from a ground level, or what they call it, grassroots. And so we're honored to be able to come before you.
Good morning. Just to piggyback lightly off Janelle, it's definitely been very, very rewarding. The connectedness that the Sheriff's Office has developed with the community, with the county, has been excellent. We get calls regularly to ask to have cars deployed to quite a few events in the community, which didn't happen before, which shows how the relationships are growing and developing, how the community feels so much more encouraged and connected to the Sheriff's Office, as well as all of you here. It's been excellent. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the board? Public comment twice. Public comment is now closed. I would just like to piggyback off of what Percy and Janelle said about the great work that they're doing. I think it's really innovative, and we're showing here in Genesee County that we don't have to do things the same way. And when we do make the willingness to change and be out in the community, we see results. We see change. That's a dedication of the work of these 2 gentlemen, as well as the entirety of the Sheriff's Department and our sheriff, and a lot of the work that they're doing around police evolution, changing the way that we look at law enforcement and being more active in the community. So I appreciate both of you. Thank you. With that, it'll take us on to communications, the emergency purchase for information technology security services license renewal.
Mr. Chairman, that information is included in your packet and on file in our office.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is reports. At this time, I would like to ask our Director of Equalization, Melissa Hayduke, to come up for a potential amendment.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for adding to the agenda. We have to do the final amendments for the apportionment report for the election that was held on November 8th. we're amending, and then we have the special assessment. So we're doing the Genesee County. We approved our amended 4029 for the MSU millage rate, the Parks and Rec rate, and our veterans. And Saginaw ISD, we received their amended 4029. They are adding 1.5611 mills that was approved at the November 8th election. Beecher Community Schools, they approved their 4029 last night, and I received that. So we are amending that they're adding in a 0.5 non-homestead operating millage to offset the reduction of their 18 mills, so they can bring it back up to 18 mills. Then Clayton Charter Township, I received their amended 4029 for the Swartz Creek Fire Department millage. And then I received the amended, or the revised special assessments, winter special assessments from the local units. So the pages are listed on the report that I gave you that we'll be amending. So I'm just asking that you approve the resolution to amend the report so I can send that off to the local units for the spreading of the taxes.
So to clarify, these amendments all stem from the most recent election and those townships and municipalities approving what the voters have recently voted on, correct?
The August election for our millages, and then our November election for part of our millages and the rest of the millages, correct?
Thank you. At this time, we would need a motion to add this item to our agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported, needing 6 votes. We will take a roll call. This is to add to the agenda.
Yes.
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 Commissioner
Yes.
Davis? Commissioner Peppin?
Yes.
Commissioner Nolan?
Yes.
All right, with 8 voting in the affirmative, this item is added to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So move. Support.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the amendments to the apportionment report? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The amendments are adopted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Next on the agenda, Board of Commissioners, Resolution 22-925, approval of a resolution in opposition to the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy's granting of air quality permit 90-21 to Ajax Material Corporation. It's been moved and supported. Is there discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Sorry, Mr. I just wonder what this has to do with us and why we're involved.
Commissioner Nolan.
Actually, this is an asphalt plant that is on Carpenter Road in my former district. It's right across the street from the city of Flint. And it's in an area that experienced environmental racism for a number of years. And there's been a lot of community support around this. I've been to a couple of the meetings. It's a situation where we need to put some meat behind this because they've got some preliminary approvals, but the neighborhood that is surrounded by this plant has experienced its share of issues over the years. And it's just our way of being able to say that we support and understand what they're trying to do. It's actually in Genesee Township, but it splits right down the middle. One side is Genesee Township, the other side is City of Flint. And they got the actual plant in Genesee Township. But it is an area where years ago we had that incinerator that they actually shut down. So it's right there in that industrial park. And I think it was actually positioned or put there because of some of these reasons, but it's a large community support behind not having this plant up and running because it's connected right to a neighborhood. Now the school is gone, Carpenter Road School is gone, but you have public housing down there, you have an apartment complex, and then you have the neighborhood. And that neighborhood is actually separated basically by Dort Highway, Webster Road, and Carpenter Road. So it's almost like a closed area, and we haven't done what we should do to support those residents down there. And that's why I thought that this was important, that it come before us and that we move forward on it.
Commissioner Shoemaker?
Thank you for that information. If I'm understanding this correct, this is the same plant that was pitched to be proposed in Livingston County? Am I?
I'm not certain. Do you?
And other places. I'm just wondering because, the local municipalities at that point actually are the ones to take care of it. So what you're just looking for is support of the local municipalities behind not actually putting this there?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's all I need. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The resolution is adopted. Next on the agenda is Community and Economic Development. Meredith Davis, Chairperson.
We've reviewed both of these in committee, so I'd like to move items 1 and 2.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of items 1 and 2 under Community and Economic Development, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Those resolutions are adopted. Is there any report from the committee?
Not at this time.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the Finance Committee. Gary Pepin, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to move items 1 through 9 and 11 through 25 at this time.
Support.
Been asked to move items 1 through 9 and 11 through 25, leaving out item 10. Commissioner
Can
Shoemaker.
you leave out item 3 also, please?
There's a request to leave out item 3 as well. All right, is there any other items to be removed? All right, seeing none, the motion is on items 1, 2, 4 through 9, 11 through 25. It's been moved and, was there support?
Yes.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of items 1 and 2, 4 through 9, and 11 through 25, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Those resolutions are adopted.
Forwarding to receive and file a copy of the paid county
it.
bills for the
Support.
weeks ending 10/16, 10/23, an amount of $32,077,921.42.
It has been moved and supported. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 22-930, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
Nay.
The resolution is adopted.
Approval of a request to create, post, and fill 9 correction deputy positions.
So move.
Said positions requested as a result of vacancies. The cost of these positions will be paid from the general fund. We need to amend that to 6.
6.
6 corrections.
I'll support that friendly amendment.
All right, it has been moved and supported, and there has been an amendment to change that number from 9 to 6.
Could I ask a question?
We'll first have discussion on the amendment. Commissioner Nolden.
What was the reason why we had the reduction? Because I thought they needed 9.
Because once HR reviewed it, they are in charge of our position control. They realized that there was only 6 there and not 9, and we just kind of jumped the gun at the last meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All right, this time we'll vote on the amendment to change the number from 9 positions to 6 positions. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Now on to the resolution as amended.
So
Is it
move.
Support.
been moved and supported? Is there any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The resolution is adopted. Is there any report from the Finance Committee?
Not at this time.
Next on the agenda is our Governmental Operations Committee. Bryant Nolden, Chairperson.
Yes, we've reviewed all of these, so I'd like to move 1 through 4.
It's been a motion to move items 1 through 4. It's been supported. Commissioner Shoemaker.
I'd like to remove item 4. I don't think we, number 1, reviewed that last meeting, or it was on the agenda last meeting, if we could, please.
All right, there's a request to remove item 4. So
Okay,
this
so-
time, we'll consider items 1 through 3.
Please.
All right, is there any discussion on items 1 through 3? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The resolutions are adopted.
All right, I'd like to move resolution for approval of an agreement between Genesee County and Warner of Northcroft and Judge, an amount not to exceed $60,000 to provide lobbying service for Genesee County at a cost agreed upon.
Right. It has been moved and supported. Discussion. Commissioner Shoemaker.
If I could have some explanation why this is needed, and what exactly they're going to do, that would be great. I know the chair and I had a brief discussion before the meeting about this, but my understanding is we have 9 people that represent the Genesee County over at the House of Representatives in Michigan, and I think we have 3 to 4 senators that actually do. Now, I'm assuming this money, I see it come from account 1010, which is general fund, which my first question is this budgeted in there? Then why, if it's budgeted, my next question is, if we can continue on, why didn't it go through subcommittee and is it just showing up on the agenda?
I'll refer that to our Director of Administration.
We're trying to get this in place before the end of the year so they can start in January with the new legislature.
Well, you just, if I may continue, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Sorry. You know, we have a December 7th meeting and a December 14th meeting where it could have went to subcommittee and been talked about, investigated a little more, seen a little more. And this is the stuff that I talk about. I said, this is just brought up. Obviously, we knew we sent it out for a bid, you know, and you guys evidently talked about it. But the fact is one, the county's in trouble financially. We've talked about that extensively. You know, we never want to cut people's pay, which I'm okay with. We never want to lay people off, which I'm okay with. But these are the type of expenses that if you're looking at it from the outside and you're an average resident in the county and you go, they're in trouble, and we have 9 people that represent Genesee County over there in the House, shouldn't they be lobbying for us? Shouldn't they be building relationships? Shouldn't they be doing things like that? I mean, I guess I'm spoiled. I have a representative that when we need stuff, we call, and Mike Mueller, that is very assertive and helps us get things done. Now, I know with the change of control over there, that might change a little bit, but it's about relationships. And I just have a problem with spending, I know it's only $60,000, which $60,000 to us when we're throwing, you know, what do we just, you guys just approved $37 million for, you know, payment. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it keeps adding up. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to understand what exactly they're going to do above what one of our representatives should be doing. If someone could explain that to me, I'd appreciate that.
Colonel.
I don't really have, I couldn't explain that to you, but I just wanted to let you know that I've, in my other capacity as Executive Director of Burston, I've engaged a lobbyist that has worked on behalf of the Friends of Burston. It's not this company, but that lobbyist, and we've paid them a decent amount. I've been able to secure about $2 million for our project because of the relationship that these lobbyists have with the folks in Lansing. And this is on both sides of the aisle. I've had Republicans and as well as Democrats actually come to Burston or meet with me through Zoom to talk about our project. And it was all because of the relationships that they have. Because I've talked to our representatives and they've been somewhat supportive. But when you have certain lobbyists, and like I said, I don't know this particular company, although I heard that they're supposed to be one of the larger ones, it helped me. So I just know from what I've been able to accomplish with the lobbying support that I've gotten, if they're anything like the lobbyists that I've used in the past and using now, I think it could be beneficial to the county. It's just my 2 cents.
So what I'll add to that is that we do have a legislative delegation, and each elected representative and senator has a varying level of effectiveness in what they're able to provide and bring back to our communities. But even the most effective legislators, they have a limited amount of political capital and may not have the relationships with certain members, especially of different parties, by hiring in a firm that can leverage some of those relationships, leverage that work that we're trying to do. A $60,000 contract that has a potential to bring in $2, $3, $4, $5 million within one fiscal year to the county, I think pays for itself. This particular firm, one of the things that really stands out to me about it is the team that they have. First and foremost, it is a bipartisan organization. It's a company that has strong ties with both Democrats and Republicans. They're one of the few firms that play in both the national level and the state level, bringing to Genesee County some dollars for us from the state legislature, which, as we know, still has a large amount of surplus funds that they're going to be expending within this next year, as well as the federal government. With the current change in leadership in the state legislature, in the House and the Senate, one of the things that makes this proposal specifically appealing is that their legislative team of lobbyists and advocates have really close relationships with the chairs of the appropriations committees in the House and the Senate, which again additionally leverages us to receive dollars in Genesee County. This is something that several other counties are doing. We aren't the first ones to bring this on, and the counties that are doing this, places like Ottawa County, very similar to us, Wayne County, Oakland County, which I'll agree are much bigger than us, in their lobbying contracts, and some of them have hired 3, 4 lobbyists, are bringing in multi-millions of dollars every year to their county that we've historically been missing out on, that we've not been in that ballpark, we've not been playing that game, and we've been the ones missing out. When we talk about needing innovative and new ways to bring in revenue, this is one of those ways to do that. Again, paying $60,000 to bring in several million dollars, I think, is something we should pursue. This contract is a 1-year contract, so it would only take us through the next budget cycle, and then it could be reevaluated based on its successes if it's something we want to continue on in the future. Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you for that. I hear you say that's going to bring in several $million. Is there a guarantee that we're going to receive several $1 million?
No.
So I'm torn with this. I understand where you're trying to go, and I understand what we're trying to do, but, you know, I just keep thinking we keep putting our head in the sand, the fact that our residents see us spending money, and never willing to make any cuts anywhere, and we just keep adding on. My next question is, if someone knows, what areas of the county will they be pursuing funds? Is it like for G-Card, or would it be, for policing or public safety? Do we know the areas what they would be lobbying for? Or?
The answer is all of those areas. So one of the things, part of the contract, is that we would be meeting, I would imagine, fairly regularly with their team. They're going to give us updates about what's happening in the legislature, what bill packages are coming through, what other counties and communities are getting for things, but then we can also make very specific direct asks. We need $2 million for this program. Can you advocate to the federal government? Hey, we saw that the federal government just introduced this infrastructure improvement plan, and we've got this project. Can this project fit into there? Can you advocate for $4 million for this project? We have this issue with our law enforcement. We need another $100,000 for the sheriff's department. Can you pull that from the corrections budget that's passing through next spring? So we would be having those communications. So it depends. We can tailor it to what we think our needs are, and they'll be presenting us with new ideas, what we might not realize where we could bring money in, but we can make those direct asks as well. Go ahead.
Do we give them an actual list of where we want them to look and go? Do we have like communications from other counties so we kind of know what we should be looking for, where we should be going? Have they provided that type of a
So that would be
search, or-
part of the process. Once we're contracted with them, we could provide them a direct list. And of course, they wouldn't be limited to just what that list is, right? We give them a list of, say, hey, go fight for these 3 things, and they may come back to us and say, we're working on these 3 things, but there's a 4th thing. But they also would have those relationships with other counties and seeing the legislation that other counties are getting and bringing that back to us. I think that's an important piece, right? We might not realize that there's a bucket of money for something, and we see that Wayne County got $5 million for this project, and we're like, oh, we're doing the same project. We should be getting a piece of that pie too. So that's a really good point, and that's part of, is there a list right now? No, but that's part of the contract and the relationship that we would have with the firm. If we go with this firm or any firm, it'd be pretty much the same relationship that we would be having those communications quite regularly.
Who will be the liaison for that? Is it going to be the future chair, is it going to be Mr. Freeman? Who's going to be dealing with them mostly?
So I would assume that it'd be both the chair and the director of administration. The chair, of course, operating through what the interest of the board is. At any time, if there was a specific item that the board wanted to have our lobbyists advocate for, and as this is something we see in other counties, if the chair's not communicating those with the lobbyists, which they absolutely should be, we can always pass a resolution saying, we're taking a stance on this, we want this, and direct our lobbyists to do that. I would also say the lobbyists would be able to meet, and probably would if they were doing their job, with every one of the commissioners to see what their interests are, and then bringing that back to the leadership team and saying, these are what your other 8 commissioners want. Is this something we can all work through? And if I was staying on as chair, I'd be working through a consensus with the majority of this team.
But also, Mr. Chairman, I think that not just the Board of Commissioners, but there's things that the sheriff may be advocating for, or the prosecutor may be advocating for, or the treasurer, or, the drain commissioner, that, this isn't just for the Board of Commissioners, it's for the entire county.
And I think one key example of that, without going too much into legislative things, is one of the things that we know that's what I believe is a law change that needs to happen when we talk about the prosecutor's office, is funding sources. Our public defenders get a large portion of funding through the state to operate. That's not true in the prosecutor's office. So that's an imbalance of justice, and having a lobbyist that can advocate to legislators across the state about changing the funding system for our prosecutor's office, getting them the money they need, which then means that we need less general fund dollars potentially for the prosecutor's office that we can use to fill other things. Just one of the examples of the departments that could be using this to advocate for our behalf. Go ahead.
Are these going to be broke down between the departments and the cost, or is it just one chunk to the general fund then?
I'll refer that to you.
Yeah, so we budget that in our office this year. Prosecutor, for example, is general.
Reason I ask is this, like, G card though is not general fund. And obviously they can use some help. I'm always securing more funds and stuff like that. So that's why I was asking. My last one, and it didn't get answered, is why didn't it just go in front of subcommittee when we had 2 other meetings? Because Commissioner Clemens, what a great job selling it. I mean, you have my head nodding yes, so from there. But why couldn't it go through sub and then be brought up when we had time?
It was just a matter of trying to get it taken care of.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging me.
No problem. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of this item, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion is adopted. Is there any report from the Governmental Operations Committee?
I don't have a report, but I just wanted to remind everybody about tomorrow. We're having the Christmas lighting spectacular at Burston Fieldhouse. It starts at 6. The FIM have the brass section there. We have 2 choirs that's going to be performing. We're going to have Santa there taking pictures, and we have some handouts that we're going to be giving to the general public. So I hadn't asked the sheriff, but he's here now. Could we have somebody from your office there tomorrow? All right, thank you.
That's tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Burston?
Yes, yes.
All right, thank
It's going
you.
to be beautiful. We're going to light up the whole block from Dewey to Pasadena.
All right. That brings us to the Human Services Committee. Charles Winfrey, chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to move items 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Support?
There's a motion and support to move items 1 through 4. Is there any items to be removed? Seeing none, is there any discussion? Being there's no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any in opposition? Those resolutions are adopted. Is there any report from the Human Services Committee?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to Public Works. Ellen Ellenberg, chairperson.
I'd like to move Resolution 2022-961, approval of modification number 3 of the contract between Genesee County Serious Services and to provide janitorial services. And this is a 1-year contract.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
You know, I love we just modify things instead of actually send them out. So this is the 3rd time we've just modified the contract instead of sending it out?
Yeah, so typically on these contracts, what we do is it's for a set period of time with some automatic or ability to renew. My recommendation to Ray on this is let's not go out and do an RFP this year for cleaning buildings that we don't know if we're going to have next year, as we're moving through this process of kind of consolidating what our footprint looks like. Once we have a better understanding of what our timing is going to be with the building, because right now we're looking at the end of next year, and the end of next year would be closing 3 or 4 other buildings, that it didn't make sense to go out and do a full RFP for the next 3 years when we really don't know what that timing is going to look like and what that final footprint is going to look like. So, to extend this contract for 1 more year in this transition period, and then we'll go out and do a full RFP like we did with this contract.
Go ahead.
I seem to remember, and I could be remembering it wrong, we discussed this last year at this time, and, my opinion is I always like to see it go out because we pay people to actually make sure we're getting the best price, make sure we're getting the best value for our residents, because it's not our money. And I understand where you're coming from with, just wanting to move through it because we're changing buildings, but there are services that will operate just with a year contract or less if they needed to. So I'm just frustrated with it because guess what? I think we should constantly be looking for ways to save money. And by not sending this out for a actual bid, we've just assumed in our mind that guess what? This is the best it's going to get and we'll just move on. And, once again, like I said, it's not our dollars. We should be looking to save everyone we can. So from there, but thank you for filling me in, Mr. Freeman.
My question is this a local company?
I don't think that they're local. They may be out of Ohio, but this did go through an RFP process.
Yes,
originally.
they're not a
The
local
original
company.
one did
They're
go
based
through an
out
RFP.
of Ohio. But they service some surrounding areas. They do Dow Chemical in Midland. Can I just add a couple things real quick, just a couple key points? The additional 1-year extension is a no-cost increase, which is pretty unheard of because they do provide the cleaning chemicals. And then the challenges with trying to hire staffing right now, especially in these lower paid positions, is incredibly difficult. So it'd be very difficult to go out for an RFP and get a whole new group of people in here. And then just the onboarding process to bring a new vendor in that touches every one of our buildings and to do the background checks and the training and the HIPAA requirements and the, all the required it's a big effort on the building and grounds department. Access cards, you name it, keys. It takes a lot of manpower to change vendors.
So a follow-up to that, so I'm hearing, I get that, I understand it would take a long time to switch vendors in new manpower, and I also hearing, the fact of the new building not necessarily knowing what exactly our needs would be in the future. Do we have a rough estimate of a date of when we'll be in that new building?
So we do. Right now, the architect is telling us at the end of next year if everything goes as planned. So, with any type of large construction project, there are sometimes hiccups that delay things a little bit. But we're going to do everything we can to make sure that those are limited and, we try to stay on that schedule.
Is there other discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
And thanks for coming up telling us. The problem is modification number 3. It's not just contract, then 2 other modifications. We've pushed this down the road another 3 years, basically. And I understand what a building and grounds is saying, and I understand how difficult their job is, and I understand that process. But we probably should have done this a couple years ago instead of just moving forward with the modification and went from there. So I think that would have been the more prudent way to go to show we're looking after every taxpayer dollar, is to have done it right when the original contract expired, and we'd be on year 3 of the current contract than if we'd went with a 3-year contract back then. So that's just my thought on it. I would like to see it always sent out. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Winfrey.
Yeah. I'm going to chime in support of Commissioner Shoemaker. Moving forward, this is an opportunity to make sure that we have more inclusivity in our procurement system. And I'd like to see us break this up to allow more local companies to bid and more minority companies to bid on this particular project. I just want to state that for the record.
Thank you. Is there other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
The resolution is adopted. Is there any report from the Public Works Committee?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. There's no unfinished business. Is there any new and miscellaneous business to be brought from other commissioners? Seeing none, I will turn it over to our Corporation Counsel for a closed session.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the Open Meetings Act, Michigan compiled law 15.268 allows county boards to hold closed sessions in limited instances. One is under subsection 8C for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement. And that is what is before you this morning. A simple majority vote is all that's required to go into closed session on this subsection of the OMA.
Thank you.
So moved to go into closed session.
It's been moved and supported to move into a period of closed session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? We will now move into closed session. We'll meet right back here in 301. back to order at 10:08 a.m. Seeing no other business on the agenda, we stand adjourned at 10:08 a.m.